All right, so here we are. Welcome to episode 209. I told you a couple of episodes ago that I was going to have a very special guest with me
Mhm.
today. And with no further ado, here he is. And I have Matt Beaudreau joining me today. And Matt is a fabulous person who's doing amazing things in the world to help our kids who may be they may be round holes trying to be stuffed in square pegs. And
Mhm.
I think Matt's got a lot of cool answers. So we're just going to dive in and chat and talk about all of it.
Thank
So
you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the admiration is absolutely mutual too. So I appreciate you taking the time to chat.
thank you. And I'm
Yeah.
so happy to have you on here because I love what you're doing at your school. And so why don't we start there by telling
Yeah.
our listeners what you do at your school and what it is?
Yeah. So we are. I'm the owner and the founder of Acton Academy Placer, and so we are part of the Acton Academy network. And so there's about 100 and gosh, I think last count, I think we're close to like 120 Acton Academies, I think worldwide, and we're in 20 some odd different countries. And so Acton Academy is really, it's a bunch of us that are, a lot of us are entrepreneurs. A lot of us, like myself, have other jobs and are opening these specifically for our children. And that's definitely my case, opening it for my kids to have this experience and for the legacy to give back to the community. And it's a bunch of us that are essentially complaining about the way schools should be done, but we're complaining by creating what we believe is a better model. So Acton Academy Placer, we focus in the Acton Academy network on a few main things that vastly differ from your traditional school environments. We utilize the Socratic method, have Socratic conversations with all of our students on a daily basis. We don't lecture. We don't even really respond. We respond to their questions with questions. And thinking is something that we take very seriously, and it's something that there's kind of been a moratorium on in traditional schools for a long time. Everything comes with a rubric, right? So that's the Socratic part. On the academic side, we very much push, personal responsibility and working hard and wanting to do well, but we understand that that looks very different and the abilities look very different for every single child. So they are essentially creating their own goals and they are academically driving their own goals. One 9-year-old is not doing the same thing as other 9-year-olds because they've got different gifts, they've got different talents, passions, abilities. So we set them up to drive those things individually. And then real world projects are important as well. Every 5-6 weeks, they're taking on a new real world project, whether that's starting a business and bringing a product or service to market. Maybe it was, and we had them engineer the back play area and what they wanted to see, do a cost analysis of what it would cost to get the materials, and then once they did some sales pitches and decided what they wanted to do, they built the play structures, they built the monkey bars, they built. So it's just trying to expose them to a wide variety of things so that these kids can understand who they are, what gifts they have, and we're all committed to what we call the hero's journey, and so that's what we're after. So it is definitely a different environment, but it's amazing to watch unfold.
I absolutely love that. And I know that your students do some internships, apprenticeships. How
Yeah.
does that work?
Yep. So again, every Acton is, the beauty of it is that we all collaborate together. We have some systems that are similar. We're always in this continuous feedback loop, but we all operate differently as well. We take on the DNA of the owner, the DNA of our kids, of the community that we're in, right? So some of the Actons will get kids involved in internships and apprenticeships as early as middle school, really, and they'll have, we walk kids through the process of reaching out to organizations that they're interested in working in, talking about how they could provide value, establishing for themselves, the ability to get an interview and to go in and sometimes it's a day or two job shadow situation, sometimes it's a week. And from the high school perspective, and especially where we are in my given community, that's something that one of the things that I bring to the table as far as value for our community is that I've got a decent amount of connections in our community, and so we bring in entrepreneurs on a weekly basis. They share their story, and what we do is if there's any of our high school kids are interested in those fields, we connect them, and so they're connected with mentors in the community that they're working directly with. So much of their school week doesn't have to be with us on our campus. It can be in somebody else's office, providing value to them while the student is getting to learn and take on those skills. So we're connecting them with mentors and internships in the community. We're also connecting them virtually. We've got contacts from around the world that are experts in various fields, and so we'll connect our kids virtually. Well, they'll have, much like what we're doing now, utilize technology, jump on a Zoom call, and they've got a mentor that they're working with. So, and we really just reverse engineer who these kids are, where they want to go, what does their journey look like, and who makes sense to connect them. Because unlike schooling where you pretend the teachers have all the answers, we realize we definitely don't. So let's get you to the people that do have all the answers, and it's making a big difference for these kiddos.
That is amazing. I
So
absolutely love it.
ton of fun.
So what do you do for kids who you were saying you reverse engineer like what they want, where they want to
Yeah.
be, and then you
Yep.
figure out how to get them there?
Yep.
What do you do with the child who comes to you and they have no idea? How do you help them?
Yeah, most don't. And so, we've got, the answer is it depends. And it depends based on what age they come in
Hmm.
too. So this is our first year with high school. So we've got some of these high school kiddos that have come out through traditional schools and now have come over to us. And so they really are, the majority of them going, man, I'm not really sure. And so what we do is we just take the road of exposure. What kind of things do you do in your spare time? What kind of things do you enjoy reading about, listening to? What do your parents do? Does that excite you? Does that not? We kind of go through all those. What are your strengths? Everybody does their strength finders tests, and so we try to get as many data points around those kind of things as possible, rather than data points around how good are you at algebra, can you memorize this for right, different kind of data points to see who is this individual. And then we just start connecting, and as they go through the process of connecting with people, in a field they think they might be interested in, that either gets them really excited or they go, yeah, you know what, that wasn't exactly what I thought it would be, and that's okay. That's a great data point to have too, right? For
Absolutely.
our younger kiddos, the projects and the quests, we really, those 5 to 6 week projects are designed to give them a breadth of exposure. 7 quests a year, all of them in vastly different fields. And so what we do is you have the opportunity, of course, the younger they come in, the better, because over the course of many years, we can see, okay, here's the pattern for all of these different quests. You were very excited about this one, didn't really like this one, really excited about this one, that one was okay. And within the context of those quests, you gravitated towards this, and then you gravitated towards this over here, and you start to see a pattern of what they actually like and what they're actually good at. And you can have these conversations and talk to them, so that when these guys get up to the high school level, it's much more of an intentional focus, because they actually have that. We actually have those conversations. So yeah, it's fun to watch, and it just depends on where they come in, at their season of life.
Hmm. Do you find that when you get the kids older, the
Yep.
kids who've gone through eighth grade
Yep.
and now they're coming to you in high school,
Hmm.
does it take longer to unwind that traditional training that they've had?
100%, 100%. So many Actons will take on um, a philosophy of just starting young, specifically to counteract that, because there is something to be said for the time that it takes to have to unlearn bad habits. And we walk through that as adults, right? You unlearn the bad habits of eating and or exercising and things like that, and you've got to change those habits, and whatever that looks like for people. The kids that come in at that high school level, oftentimes what we'll see, and again, it's not across the board, but what we'll see is however many years they spent in a traditional school environment as we know it, it will take them about that many months before they really understand how to be what we call self-directed, and be able to efficiently utilize their time. And so that's a good rule of thumb that we definitely have seen play out. We had enough response from our community where we've said, okay, we're going to take on that challenge, and we're definitely trying to figure out ways to expedite that for them. And I don't think that's the right answer for all of the Actons, but we definitely see it as a harder thing. Whereas our kids that come in at 5, 6 years old and haven't been taught that school looks any different, they just get it. they
Mhm.
just get it. They're like, oh, okay, this is how we do things. Cool, here we go. And you'll watch 5 and 6 year olds run a morning meeting more efficiently than you watch, 30 and 40 year olds in a boardroom. And that's no joke. And people come in and go, okay, and they come in and see it and they go, oh my gosh. And we have universities that are coming in to watch going, oh my gosh. Okay. So, yeah,
Wow.
it's a fascinating thing.
That is impressive. And
Really
I
cool.
I totally can see it that being the case because
Yeah.
children are sponges and they will
Yeah.
absorb anything around them, whether it's useful or not, or
Go.
positive, negative, anything.
Bingo. Bingo. And so that flows right into what I know you're so good at too, is working on the parenting side and dealing with the parents too, right? The kids are sponges. And so I
Mhm,
tell the parents all the time, kids will do what you do before they do what you say. So we're
mhm,
modeling this kind of self-directed behavior on campus, and bringing character into the equation and talking about things like self-awareness and self-confidence and personal responsibility and discipline. And but if they're going home and they're not seeing that exhibited from their own household, the conversations, the parents aren't intentionally growing themselves, the parents aren't exhibiting discipline themselves, then we're really in this spot where we're the kids seeing a battle from what they're being told. And so it really ends up being something that it's a 24 hours a day kind of thing, but it's so important.
mhm. So I'm curious about the kind of parents you get and the kind of kids you get.
Yeah.
Do you get more parents who are entrepreneurial minded or more
That's a big
like
part.
employees or what?
Yeah, that's a big. We definitely have an entrepreneurial minded, and I like the way you put that too. It's an entrepreneurial minded group. When I say that, we have a lot of entrepreneurs. We also have people who are employees but are entrepreneurially minded
Mhm,
employees, right?
mhm,
And that makes a big difference too. So we definitely have that. We have in our specific community, we actually have gotten a lot of parents coming out of the homeschool community, because they understand, they kind of understand there's something that they didn't like about traditional education and they wanted to take that on. And then they see essentially what we're doing is we have a program that's essentially a collaborative kind of co-op, a very intentional entrepreneurially minded co-op, for these kids to be involved in. So we've drawn a lot from there too. You will get interest from people who hear like the term alternative school, when we were growing up meant, it's your last step before juvie, right?
right.
Like, so, um, so alternative education definitely doesn't mean that anymore. It's usually the alternative to this 100 years school experiment that we've been running in our country. So it means something different, but because people hear that, you still do have some that come and go, hey, all right, my kid got kicked out of this other school. And it's, those are things that we definitely battle and flesh out and say, no, this isn't the right place for you. um, but the parents that are coming in, I think the hardest part for them is there's this always, when we talk about what Acton does and our philosophy and our methodology, intellectually speaking, I rarely, if ever, will find an adult that goes, no, that doesn't make sense.
Mhm,
Right? Intellectually, everybody's like, yeah, that makes sense. Of course we should be doing this way. Of course, that's fantastic. But then there's the emotional side of it, and
mhm,
I'm quick to point that out to them too, because I need them to understand, like, there's the emotional attachment to this is the way we've always done things, but everybody else is doing this. There's those emotional attachments to that are the hardest things for a lot of these parents, to let go. And so, really one of the unifying factors of the families that we do have is we've got these parents who were able to overcome that emotional attachment to this is the way it's always been, and really go, no, intellectually I know this is how it should be, and I'm willing to step up and actually go that route too. This isn't the experiment. The experiment is doing, having my kid do the same thing as everybody else all this time and seeing if they come out different and okay and happy. And that's really the experiment, but the ability
mhm.
to see that and act on that is kind of their unifying piece.
And I'm sure it takes a lot of courage for parents
Yeah.
to act upon what that instinct or that
Yep.
suspicion that they have that there's a better way, but ooh, going against society's norms,
Going against the grain,
it
going
takes
against the grain is,
courage.
it does take courage. It does. And there's a reason that, we always talk about the 1%, and we talk about it in so many different contexts, but there's a reason that there's a 1% who are going against the grain too.
Mm-hmm.
It does, it takes courage to do that because of the backlash you're going to get from, community, from your peers, from your family, from your, again, even when success is playing out, even when your child is changing or life is changing for the better, you always have those people going, but everybody else does this. um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's those 1% that are on the hero's journey that end up changing the world, and we all know that.
Absolutely. So before we go any further,
Mhm.
I'm thinking as you're talking, all my kids are in traditional public school,
Yep.
and it definitely has its pros and cons for
Sure.
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 But I'm thinking about all of the absolutely incredible teachers that they have encountered
Yes.
over their lifetimes.
Absolutely.
And so I do want to give a shout out to the amazing teachers who are still trying to work within the system of the
A
public
hundred percent.
schools,
A hundred
because
percent.
there are so many gems in that system. It is unbelievable.
it's
So
it's the best part. It's the best part of the system.
it
And I'm
is.
very, really, I want people to understand that too. I'm more pro teacher, pro school administrator. I am more pro those people than anybody on the planet. I was those people. I still
Right.
have friends and family in those people, right?
Uh-huh.
That's where I came from. I came out of that. I grew up in it, and then I worked as that. So I'm more pro. I never have an issue with the people, that are there. It's the issue is always the system. So I'm glad you said that. Glad you clarified that.
So let's talk for a moment in case any teachers, traditional public school teachers, are catching this chat that we're having.
Mhm.
If they're if they know the weaknesses in the traditional system,
Yeah.
what words of advice might you have for them to continue to kind of support their students in the way that they inherently and intuitively know is right, but still kind of work within the confines of the
Yeah.
system?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I think the really good teachers, and again, these are wonderful people that have, almost all of them have gone into this field altruistically, and they really do want to make the difference, right? And but I'm a very firm believer that, you can only training is going to increase you this much as far as becoming a good educator. But I think that is something that is, a DNA kind of thing. There are some people that are just naturally
Hmm.
amazingly talented at connecting with other people and connecting with children in particular, right? And I don't think that necessarily is a trainable aspect of things. So, I think those kind of people are going to do what I'm about to say anyways.
Hmm.
I don't think they can help it, right? They have to. And so, um, my biggest advice when I'm talking to teachers is to do what I always called, is to be what I always called creatively insubordinate. And I don't mean that, hopefully that's not in a negative way. Um, they understand the connection with the individual students is what's most important. They've
Hmm.
got usually a perspective on, oh my gosh, this kid is getting a C in this class, but this kid is brilliant, and I don't want that to bug them. So it's those kind of things where you really have to be conscientious of every single kid and what their driving thing is. And so if they're working within the context of a system and your kid is going to get a C on their history test and they're going to be super bummed out, but they're this brilliant engineering mind that are going to, and they're going to go on and create whatever. That's Have that conversation. Be willing to have that conversation. Go, look, this is how the function of the system is here, whether that's good, whether that's bad, whatever. So the C came down here, but understand, I'm just so impressed by you. I'm so impressed by your ability to X, Y, and Z. Um, it's those kind of conversations that are going to be your best ally when you're working systemically in something sometimes that you're having to do something you don't necessarily agree with. Those individual relationships, and we all know this, it's always been that way. The teachers you favored when you grew up were the ones you had that intimate relationship with. So it's those kind of things to make sure that you're impressing. It's more important now than it ever was, because we do over standardize everything, and because everything is, there's more handcuffs on educators than there's ever been. There's more of a focus on really things that don't matter than there's ever been.
Hmm.
So it's more important now than ever that we have those conversations, and that's the biggest piece of advice I can give. Everything else, you can work around if you're really good with that.
I love that piece of advice. So along those lines, now I'm thinking about parents who are listening in.
Yeah. Yep.
So if a parent has their child, I mean, I think there should be an Acton Academy in every school district in the country, but that's pie in the sky, I guess.
I get yeah.
So if a parent is
Going for it.
listening and they have their child in a traditional school setting,
Yep.
but
Yep.
they see the flaws in the system too, but
Sure.
whatever circumstances cause them to know that their kid is staying where they are,
Yeah.
how
Yep.
would you encourage them to support their child to flourish in
Yeah.
the traditional public school setting?
Yeah, it's great. And I think showing their own journey to their kids, I don't think is a bad thing, right? We always, for so long, it was, mom and dad, how much do you make? That's none of your business. Mom and dad, who did you vote for? That's none of your business. That's not right. We have all these things that we've been taught are these personal things. Don't talk to your kids about this. I think we need to flip the script. I think we need to actively talk to them and say, okay, look, here's what mom and dad do. Here's what we do for work. Here's what our budget looks like. Here's how much mom makes, how much dad makes. Here's what we do. We have those adult conversations, and we have those conversations like, man, at work right now, this is tough. I'm having to push through this part, because we want them to understand, look, there may be some of these situations where you're not super excited in what you've got to do, and I understand some of the drawbacks. I'm with you, but it doesn't replace the fact that hard work and character matter. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to push through this. You're going to give it your best effort. We're going to um we're going to kind of overemphasize for the kids the character and the hard work aspect, de-emphasize the focus on the grades, de-emphasize the focus on how well you do in a given course. It's got to be, did you do your best work? Are you treating other people the right way? Putting things in that kind of perspective for them, is a big deal. And in that perspective, put academia in its place too. We've been taught as a society, if you're good academically, then that's going to map out to future success, future happiness. Obviously, provably false. So put academia in its place too. Academia is great, but if your kid's an academic, they're going to do well in that. If they're not, doesn't mean they're not going to be great people, happy, successful. So put it in its place. Academia, I tell people, it doesn't equal competency in anything other than academia. And I know a lot of academics who are brilliant people, but they need to stay in the academic lane because their theory versus application or
Mhm.
practicality, which they may have never had any experience in, right, doesn't always map out. Academics says, in theory, you learn everything you can about baseball and memorize stats about baseball and memorize the rules of the game and understand everything about baseball. And all of a sudden, that's going to make you a good baseball player. And we know that doesn't map out. And that's the way it works for all academic subjects. So parents putting academia in its place, but while still promoting the character traits we want to see, the hard work, the treating other people the right way, the trying to dive in and learn about yourself, the being as self-directed as possible, the pursuit of what's going to make me happy, and the awareness of, it's all of those things that need to be the focus in our conversation with our kids. You do that, and they'll be okay. If they're not getting it from school, they need to get it from home.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And that brings me to my next question,
Hmm.
which is you and I have talked off camera before about the college track versus
Yep.
what else is there besides the college track. So
Yep. Yep.
let's talk a little bit about kids who the college track is just not right for. What other options are there for kids, and how can parents find out about it, pursue it,
Yeah.
whatever?
So good, so good, and such a multifaceted answer. So, with the college track, and we say, who it's right for and who it's not. And so culturally, we've been taught that means who's doing well academically and who isn't, right? Even
Yep.
though some of our kids will do well academically, they'll go off to college, do well in college academically, and then, oh, wait, now I'm straddled with all this debt. I'm working at Starbucks with my 4-year degree, or I'm going into it. One of my clients who is a big, I don't want to necessarily put them out there, but they're a big client, and they're struggling with the fact that they're hiring all these academics from Stanford, Harvard, MIT that are brilliant kids, but they come into the workplace and provide no value. So again, the college track, we need to think about what that really means, and it really boils down to reverse engineering that particular child and their particular goals in that, right? So you've got that understanding too that college doesn't have to be, going to college can be great, and if you need it for the degree you're going for, there's a certification aspect to it, fantastic. Understand that going straight to Harvard afterwards doesn't necessarily mean anything. Some organizations are hiring and they want the degree, but they could care less if it's Harvard or if it's down the street university.
Mhm.
That's the reality of it. A lot of employers are now also saying, hey, I don't even care if you have a college degree. Show me that you have skills, because so many people are coming out with degrees and don't have the skills. So you've got
Mhm.
Amazon, Google, Microsoft that are saying, show me that you got the skills, show me some
Mhm.
work history in that, a digital portfolio of that, and you can skip college altogether. College entrance is more of a game than it is based on anything else. And there's plenty of ways to play the game, whether it's applying the traditional route, applying via a homeschool route, going to community college first, saving some money for a couple years and transferring in. That gives you, a leg up. So I just want to make sure that people know that if they are going the college route, there's not a lot of stress that needs to be put into that college route either.
Mhm.
The myth of, Stanford's better versus for the most part, those are myths as well. So relax on the people that are going to college. They need to relax and realize everything's okay. So that said, now that I'm off the soapbox on that part, there are, I believe, at the last time I checked, there was it was something around the 54%, somewhere around there, of six-figure jobs available in our country did not require a college degree.
Wow.
We do not, everything with this No Child Left Behind and college for everybody, we have left out a group of very hardworking, brilliant people who are working in these trades fields, working in, aviation, electricians, welding, all of these traditional trades, construction, that still need these people to have six-figure jobs available, and they literally cannot fill them because we told everybody, well, then success only looks like a four-year degree.
Mhm.
So understanding if your child has that particular interest, that particular bent, looking at just even local apprenticeship programs, they are still wildly available in
Mhm.
so many of these fields. And like anything else, you don't go out, I got my four-year degree, so now all of a sudden I'm starting at six figures. No, you go into the bottom a lot of times of the organization. You've got to work hard and prove yourself and work your way up. It's the same kind of thing in these fields. You go in and you go in at an apprentice level, but a lot of times you're doing that without the debt. The push through from an apprentice level to a journeyman level is shorter than it would be to go to college, and you come out more money, less debt in a quicker amount of time. So we don't want to, you know looking at those areas is a smart thing to do if your child has an interest in any of those. Understanding that there's so many programs popping up now too. My personal favorite is an organization called Praxis, Praxis. The website is discoverpraxis.com, and practice is essentially an intern or apprentice related model for corporate America. And so these students are meeting virtually online. They're getting wonderful feedback and guidance from people in all different industries. I know Christopher Lockheed got on there and did something with them. I went on and did some stuff with some of the Praxians. My friend Michael Ellsberg, who's an amazing author, was on there working with Praxians. So they get this input from people who are doing things, and then they get to work in this apprenticeship being paid, and they get paid more than Praxis costs altogether. So they come out debt free with months of experience
Mm.
in real world scenarios. And it's translated so far, I think, into like 96 or 97% of them getting a full job offer after the program. And so many of them are making, they come out, they go through Praxis for a year, and then they're starting at $50,000 in a salary, having no debt, working in a field they're interested in, working with people that are doing, cool things. So Praxis is amazing. There's programs like that. App Academy is one if your kid is interested in going into engineering and app development. I mean, there are so many programs that are saying, hey, come in, you don't pay anything until you get a job. Lambda School is a new school out there, LAMBDA. Same thing, you don't pay a dime until you have a job, and then you just pay back a portion of your salary until you
Mm.
pay off tuition.
Okay, sorry about that little blip for a moment. My computer died and I had to go get the plug. So we're back again.
We are back. Yeah, and I think we left out. I think that's where it cut off. Just talking about Lambda School and their process of kind of the no pay upfront kind of deal, and you start paying back a percentage of your income once they've helped you get a job, and the fact that many universities are going to kind of have to switch to that model and are already looking at figuring out ways to offer, maybe it's not a degree, maybe it's a certification program, and they do it in that way where there's some skin in the game for them to help you get a job, right? So it's all of those things are upside. It's all upside for our kids. The biggest mistake I think people can make right now is taking on a ton of debt for college. I think that's a mistake and a half. I think there's so many ways now to play the game. There's so many ways to continue to move forward intentionally, no matter what field you're going into. I think taking on massive amount of debt, saying, well, that's just what I've got to do, and then that's all going to work out, I think that's gotten a lot of people in trouble already, and it's going to continue to get people in trouble if that's what they do. So I it's overwhelming going into the college landscape, but overwhelming in a good way now if we really look at all of the different options that are available. And so that's what I encourage people to do. And again, get out of the, well, this is the way it's always been. Everybody's got to get a 4-year. You've got to go to Harvard. You got to get out of that mindset.
That's great advice. And I think that hopefully the parents who are listening will kind of relax the pressure that they feel for their child to quote unquote succeed.
Yep.
And then also as a byproduct of that, relax the pressure that they're spilling over potentially onto their child who is already facing tremendous pressure as it is.
Guaranteed that spills over. Like, that's a great point. It spills over if they're feeling the pressure, and again, their pressure comes from, you ask a parent, what do you want for your kid? They're going to say happiness. They're going to say that, but in the back of their mind, some of them consciously, some of them subconsciously, it's like, but I really want them to go to, MIT because it shows that I did something right as a parent, and I can show other people, look what a good parent I am. My kid went to MIT. And that's, again, it's that societal pressure of doing things the way we've been taught to do them. And that it spills over. Your child feels that, your child sees that. And so, even if you're saying no pressure, but you're feeling it and you're showing it, they're going to feel it too.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, I think you have shared such nuggets of wisdom and insights for parents and teachers and kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's just awesome. And I really appreciate your time that you
Pleasure.
spent with me again today, because I don't think we're talking, we as in society, I don't think we're talking about this stuff enough.
Agreed.
And kids are under so much pressure from so many different angles.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that I don't think that the gifts of many kids are being nurtured in the way that we really could nurture them to really shift our future, our collective futures.
Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. Yeah, it's a conversation that needs to be had as many times as possible until it is a collective mind shift, societal mind shift. So, no, I appreciate you. I appreciate you doing your part too, and getting that kind of word out, getting that message out. It's a big deal.
Thank you. So if people want to learn more about you or Acton Academy or anything that you're talking about, where can they find you?
Everybody's always welcome to reach out to me personally at Matt at mattbeaudreau.com. You can go to mattbeaudreau.com and see a little bit about me and things that I'm up to, talks that I'm giving, or books that a book coming out in 2019. So people can get info there. Can find me on Instagram and Facebook at the same name. But Acton Academy Placer too. It's just Acton, Acton. Placer is Placer.com. You can go to our site and see us there. But I definitely always tell people, do a Google search on us too, because of the number of articles that are going on, and do a YouTube search as well for both those. You can find me on YouTube. You can find Acton Placer on YouTube. You can hear me spout off ideas that you're welcome to agree with or disagree with. That's part of the beauty, is I enjoy civil discourse, and we don't always have to agree. So, you find that on my YouTube, but you see some insight into our young heroes and what we're doing at Acton Placer on the Acton Placer YouTube side as well. So we try to put out as much content as possible on as many platforms as possible, as often as possible, just to inspire and motivate, and then hopefully engage and have great conversations like this. So I appreciate it.
Well, I will link up everything in the show notes so that people can find it
Cool.
easily.
Thank you.
And it sounds like you are being inspired by Gary Vaynerchuk, just like I am.
Yeah, he's got a lot of, it's his perspective, it's his mindset that I think is really, really, that's what draws me to him, is the mindset part
Mhm.
of that. And I think that's where a lot of our kids can draw a lot of inspiration. And one of the coolest things, I'm trying to figure out if I really want to add this quote in the book or not, but when he and I had a conversation, and he learned about kind of how we're operating at Acton Placer and what we're doing, he said, "No, that's a school I would have beeping gone to,"
Uh-huh.
and I took that as a huge compliment. So yeah, it was very cool.
Absolutely. That's a huge nod to what you're
Yeah,
doing over
yeah,
there.
that was cool.
Awesome.
Yep,
Well, thank you very much for your time today, Matt,
thank you.
and all this great information you shared. And I know it's going to help and inspire tons of people who hear it.
I hope so. Thank you again, Aaron. Thank you for all you're doing. I appreciate it. And look forward to chatting with anybody that wants to chat.
Awesome.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.